Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Jim Morris from Hear Inc. Jim, where can we find you?
Well, we have an office in North Canton, right off the square in North Canton on 220 West Maple. We have one in Akron. We are in the back of the Edwin Shaw Rehab Center, which is right off White Pond Drive and 77. And we also have an office in Berlin. We operate there with, operate might not be the right word, but we practice there with East Holmes Family Care Doctors.
Oh, nice. Do you have a website?
Yes, we do. It's www.hearinc, which is HEARINC as in Charlie, .biz, B-I-Z.
Oh.
You can also get there by .com.
Okay. Both will take you there.
Yes, they will.
How about a phone number?
Our main office number is 234-347-0155.
Let's give that one more time.
234-347-0155.
We were talking about hearing before the break and some of the dangers of not being able to hear. Do you have more examples for us?
There are a lot of examples. I think one of the greatest dangers that not hearing has is that you start to withdraw socially. Mm-hmm. You start making mistakes and you decide, I don't want to put myself in that position anymore. That sets you up for, and it's been documented, an earlier onset of dementia and Alzheimer's, easy for me to say, Alzheimer's, and a quicker progression into it. And if you think about it, we're created to be social beings.
Yes.
And what happens is you've got all of these other things going on with aging. Your brain shrinks as you age. If you don't hear, your auditory cortex shrinks even a little faster. So you've got that shrinkage going on, and now you've got hearing loss on top of it, and you're just having a harder time of getting it. So as you try to socialize and interact, the thinking process is already slowed down. Now, if you're sending incomplete sound information, voice information to the cerebral cortex, what's happening there is that puts a bigger load on your ability to try to do the mental gymnastics to get what's said, and it takes away from your ability to remember it. In short term.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm talking like at the end of 2 or 3 sentences, you just don't remember what was said. And you're still trying to think about what was it that was said.
So you're
trying to put the piece together, and you can't. So you're hearing gaps.
Is this inevitable with aging, or are there some things we can do?
There are things you can do. The first thing you can do is try to remember at an early age, I will not know what damage I've done to my ears by not protecting them. And do the protection now. If you have done some damage, it's even more important because once you've done the damage, it takes less energy to do more damage than it did originally, progressively.
Really?
So it's really important. I've had a lot of people come in and say, well, I've already got a hearing loss and I can hardly hear the lawnmower, so why do I have to wear hearing protection? And the answer is because you will do more damage, a lot more, a lot faster, and the results will be a lot worse.
Take it seriously.
Take it seriously. If you do have a hearing loss, then correct it as soon as possible because you don't want your brain to forget how to use the sounds that it's not using anymore. Your brain is a lot like a muscle, even though it isn't, and you're going to get the best out of the one that you use and exercise. And if you're not using and exercising that portion of your brain to hear those sounds, then it's going to try to work with what it does get and try not to worry about what it doesn't. Oftentimes when we correct somebody's hearing, they'll say, oh, things sound so brassy and tinny, and we know they're not. It's just they haven't heard them. So we've got to get them retrained on hearing that again. That's one of the hardest things to do. Yeah. Yes.
One of the things you just said, I want to go back to it because I want to make sure I heard it right. And also, it's a little scary. You were saying that with hearing loss can come forgetfulness.
Yes.
So what do you tie that to memory loss, mental health, even dementia?
Absolutely. And let me give you this. If you want more information on it, there's an institution that is nonprofit. It's called the Better Hearing Institute. So the BHI, you can go to their website, and they're just it's like a national library of hearing facts and how they impact a person's hearing.
What are causes of hearing loss? I know we listen to things too loud. We walk around with earbuds. We go to sleep with earbuds. You said something about if you've got a hole in your eardrum. That's a scary thought. How did that get there? What are some causes?
People oftentimes will see folks with a hole in their eardrum because they had infections as a child, and they get a middle ear infection. They build up a fluid in their ear, and it will actually rupture the eardrum.
Can it heal?
Yes, it can. As a matter of fact, a lot of them do heal. One of the ways that we can get a hole in our eardrum is some doctors will, for kids that have continuous infections, and I've seen it in adults, they'll put a vent in the eardrum, so that can drain out, and you don't build up that pressure and have that hearing loss and discomfort that goes with it. Loud sounds, a traumatic sound can put a hole in the eardrum. I've seen kids that had played baseball and got hit in the side of the head on the ear with a baseball, and it will cause a rupture in the eardrum. So it can be a traumatic event. It can be a sound event. A really loud blast can put a hole in the eardrum.
But these are reversible? Or is hearing loss not reversible?
Not those actually conductive losses. You can, for most of them, there's surgery that's available. Another type of the conductive loss might be the ossicles or the hammer anvil stirrup get separated, or they get a bony buildup on them, which is otosclerosis. You can have surgery done for that. They can connect with a little titanium rod, the cochlea, to the eardrum to reform that. So there are surgeries that can take care of that.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
And let's talk about, while we're talking about surgery, this new thing they're doing with cochlea implants. To be able to see the look on a person's face, and I'm thinking of some YouTube videos there with a child's face of hearing their parents' voice for the first time. It's just amazing. Have you been involved with any of that? Have any firsthand information about that experience?
The firsthand information that we have about it is with the patients that we work with, that we have to get to a point where we say, look, we've done as much as we can do. We suggest you go do this. And sometimes they'll look at us and go, well, yeah, but then I wouldn't be your patient anymore. And it's, well, you can come back and visit, but get this done.
We want you hearing.
So we've referred, I would say, over the past, since we've had the business, over the past 12 years, we've had the business longer than that. We've probably referred at least one person minimum a year for a cochlear implant, and the results can be amazing. They will only do one at a time first to make sure that you don't have rejection and to make sure that it works. And then if that one is successful, then they'll do the other. So, for instance, I have a young father with 3 children trying to start and run his own business and just had a terrible time hearing. With a cochlear implant, he can function pretty much normally now.
It's amazing. Things that we don't normally equate with hearing loss, but still can have something to do with it. What about falling?
There is an increased incidence of falling with hearing loss. I've got a little booklet here. I'm going to go to that if you'll give me
Sure, please
a minute.
do.
Falling. People with a mild hearing loss, which is less than 25 decibels, we wouldn't even fit hearing aids to that person normally.
Right.
They're 3 times more likely to have a history of falling. And that increases as hearing loss increases.
Now, why would that be?
I can only assume, and I'm not giving you this from a deep medical background, but I can only assume that the cochlea, the balance center of the cochlea, is right there next to the hearing center of the cochlea. And if you've done something that's traumatic enough to damage the sensitive hair cells for hearing, you've probably done something that's going to damage the sensitive hair cells for balance in the semicircular lobes.
Well, that does make sense. What about tinnitus? You hear about it.
Tinnitus, it's a major problem. We treat a lot of people with tinnitus. One of the great things is that just by bringing back the sound around them, it can help them not focus on their tinnitus. You're not going to get rid of tinnitus. It's not going to happen with the technology and the knowledge that we have to date. You can ameliorate it, but you're not going to get rid of it. Tinnitus, we grade it in 5 levels, which is insignificant, almost insignificant and mild, and that would be like a 1, 2. Then there's the 2, it's mild, but they notice it. Moderate would be 3, moderate to severe would be 4, and profound would be 5.
What would a 1 look like and feel like, and what would a 5 look like and feel like?
A 1 would be somebody that says, yeah, when I go to sleep at night, I get this ringing in my ears.
Yeah.
I just notice it. And every now and then through the day, if I'm studying and it's real quiet, I might notice it, but it goes away. Okay, no big deal. No need for any treatment.
Right.
A 5 is, this is driving me so crazy,
Yeah.
I just don't think I can go on living anymore.
It's just so
it can
loud
be,
and
you can
always
be suicidal.
there. My.
The strange thing about tinnitus is we know that people with mild tinnitus hear it at about 3 to 4 decibels
Really, that's
above where they hear at that frequency.
Oh, okay.
So if they've got a hearing loss, they're hearing it at somewhere between 2 to 4 decibels, 2 to 3 decibels, very mild amount above where they hear at that frequency. People with severe or profound tinnitus, when you measure it, they have tinnitus at 2 to 4 decibels above. It's not the sound. It's your focus on the sound.
An inability to focus on anything else.
Focus on anything else.
Got it.
Pretty much like mice.
Ooh.
All right.
Yeah.
If you have somebody that's just terrified of mice, they're going to see that mouse come across, and it's going to look like an elephant running across the room. They're going to jump up on a chair or a table and scream and holler. But if you were able to put that person in a laboratory and have them work with mice and rats, the next thing that you'd know is it would be a no, never mind. Oh, one of them got loose. So what? Let's
Not
go
that
get
big
it.
a deal.
Yeah.
Hearing aids are completely different now than they used to be. Let's talk about those. What kinds of treatments are there available, and what kinds of hearing aids are now available for folks who are experiencing hearing loss?
Well, first, I think it's important to say that they're not the big beige bananas that Grandma and Grandpa used to wear.
Right.
It's not like having a banana behind your ear. And we can take something that's a third of the size of what my grandparents used to wear, and we can get more power out of it than they ever needed.
Amazing.
So it's a little hard to describe here on the radio, but let me do the best that I can. The older type of hearing aids that have been around forever have a tube that goes down into the ear, and you have an ear mold that holds that tube in place, and then the hearing aid goes over the ear. That is called a behind-the-ear hearing aid. And again, they're very small these days. Then there is a newer design that is called either a RIC, which is receiver in the canal, or a RITE, receiver in the ear. And what it is it's a smaller version of that behind-the-ear hearing aid, but the receiver, which is the speaker portion, is connected to a wire that comes over the ear, down the ear, and goes into the canal. And the speaker is right there in your ear canal, which makes it easier for us to produce the power. We don't have to send it up and over the ear and out of the instrument. Then you have your standard in-the-ear hearing aids, which come in 3 different sizes, basically, which is a full shell, half a shell, which is half that little bowl, concha bowl in your hearing aid, in your ear, or an ITC in the ear or in the canal hearing aid that is just fits to the surface of barely being visible in the ear.
Just right inside there.
And then they've come up with a really, really small circuit these days, and they call those IICs, which are invisible in the canal.
Wow.
So they go way down into the bony portion of the ear, and they're right next to the eardrum. They're not going to last as long as the other hearing aids that are behind your ear or the receiver in the canal, because they're in there with the moisture of your ear. And those things should be considered when you're fitting a hearing aid.
Okay. How do people reach you again?
They reach us at Hear Inc., and they can call our main office, which is 234-347-0155.
Jim Morris from Hear Inc., thanks so much for being on Our Community.
Thanks for having us.